George Groves defeats Denis Douglin via 7th round TKO. This was a really poor performance by George Groves overall. He was in there with a guy who normally campaigns at light middleweight, but to Douglin's credit, he was smart, he was crafty, he was awkward, he was a southpaw. He was a lot shorter than George Groves, had a low center of gravity, so when he came in and decided to push George Groves back, he was able to do so. And you find with guys with Douglin's type of physique, they're able to push taller guys off balance if they know what they're doing because of that low center of gravity. And Douglin, even though he's a small guy, he's quite powerfully built. And he was able to get George Groves on the ropes and bang away with body shots. I think some of the body shots that Douglin landed sapped George Groves' strength. In the first round, I thought Douglin won the first round with sharper boxing, and he was countering what George Groves was doing. I think some of the guys in the Sky team were right when they said, actually, I think it was Jamie Moore at ringside who said George Groves is loading up too much. And he was. He went in there expecting to just walk through Douglin. And he was loading up on punches, and he wasn't letting the shots flow. He was too anxious to impress. And against a crafty southpaw, that's always a recipe for disaster. You don't want to do that. You want to let the shots flow. You want to be happy. You want to be, you know, bouncing around and feeling sharp. You don't want to be going in there trying to force a fight against a southpaw. And this is the second time now that he's tried to force a fight, because he forced the fight against Rebrass. Rebrass wasn't as tricky and awkward as Douglin, wasn't as fast, was a much more stationary target. And so he didn't actually take as much back. And he did miss a lot against Rebrass, but he also connected a lot more against Rebrass than he did against Douglin. So he was really struggling in this fight against Douglin for the first 3-4 rounds. He finally started getting control of the fight around 5th or 6th. And then in the 7th round, he landed a right hand, which hurt Douglin. Douglin was already starting to fade, and he landed a right hand, which hurt Douglin. And then Douglin went down. He got up. He wasn't in great shape. George went in for the finish, and that's all she wrote. The referee stopped it. Poor performance. George Groves even admitted himself it was only a 5 out of 10 performance. His trainer, Paddy Fitzpatrick, said it was 5 out of 10. It was a poor performance. So I don't think it's so much what George Groves is doing wrong technically. I think it's what he's doing wrong mentally. He's too eager. He's too intent on knocking people out and forcing these stoppages. He needs to be a bit more effervescent, right, about the way he goes about his job. Needs to be more relaxed, needs to let things flow. Don't always have your mind on the knockout. That's what he needs to do. And this could be a residual effect from the Carl Froch fight. Maybe because he got knocked out, he wanted to go in there and knock someone else out. You understand what I'm saying? Maybe that is on his mind. He doesn't want to feel like the victim who got knocked out. He wants to victimize someone else. So that's just I'm just throwing that out there. So it was a poor performance, but styles do make fights. This doesn't necessarily mean George Groves is finished at world level. This was a short guy, an awkward guy, a southpaw, guy who's fast. Difficult for George Groves to look good against, especially when he's trying to force the issue. If the guy had been orthodox and more stationary, George Groves might have looked better going up against a more orthodox, stationary, light middleweight. You know, so poor performance, but we'll see where George Groves goes from here. Obviously, Carl Froch, post-fight, made comments about George Groves. He said the performance was poor. He said that, and interestingly enough, he said if Groves and DeGale fight each other, I'll take on the winner. I might take on the winner. That's what he said, which is a really strange thing to say considering that DeGale's already the IBF mandatory and he has to fight DeGale next or vacate his title. So maybe that means Carl Froch is going to vacate, or maybe it was just Carl Froch talking tongue-in-cheek and just teasing a little bit. I don't know. But drop your comments below. Let me know how you felt about Groves' performance. This is Hatman. I'm out.